Hello, football fans. It's the NFL Exporter checking in February 2015. The 2014 season is officially over. Now let's go ahead. I wanted to review and also preview the head coaching situations that are currently going on in the NFL. We're going to start with the Atlanta Falcons, and Dan Quinn is now going to be the coach. He was the defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. He's taken over for Mike Smith. When I look at this Atlanta Falcons team, I think outside of coaching, certainly the Falcons are going to have to find a better way to get some talent in there. You look at a team that all their money is tied up between three players, Julio Jones, Roddy White, and Matt Ryan. Dan Quinn certainly has his work cut out. This is a Falcons defense that statistically was one of the worst in the NFL. They really don't have a lot of firepower. You look at Atlanta's defense, I'm quite sure they're going to be welcoming back inside linebacker Sean Witherspoon, who without question was their best player. But you look in the trenches, not a lot to rave about. You have slower, older outside linebackers in O.C. Umenyiora and Croy Bierman. You're going to have third-year defensive backs and Marcus Trufant, Stevie Alford. You're trying to build on those guys. Along the secondary, on the back end there, you really don't have a lot of talent. Sure, William Moore is still there, but I think Dan Quinn has his work cut out. There's certainly some talent there in Atlanta, as I mentioned, for the most part. Matt Ryan, Roddy White, Julio Jones, those guys on offense. But Dan Quinn certainly is going to have his work cut out. I think more than anything, though, what probably makes his situation promising, if you look at the rest of how the NFC South played this year, the division, it was the worst in the NFL, but very poor. None of those teams up over 500. So if Quinn could come in and find a way to turn this organization around, they do have an opportunity to at least compete for the division. You look at the Buffalo Bills bringing in Rex Ryan. Doug Marrone was there last year. For Ryan, I think it's a situation that he's very familiar with, so I don't know what the comfortability level is. Look, obviously, with him going from New York to Buffalo, probably did have to move his family. You want to be able to make money, so I'm quite sure there were some other decisions, but essentially for Buffalo, it's really a mere reflection of the Jets to a certain degree. Look, the Bills, without question, one of the best defenses in the NFL. I think the Jets have one of the best front sevens. Their secondary much weaker than Buffalo's, but offensively, you're going to run into the same issues. You don't know what your quarterback situation is going to be right now. E.J. Manuel's your guy, not much better than Geno Smith. You look at the running situation. Bills not able to run the football very effectively. Jets had those similar problems. You certainly get the Bills maybe a little bit of edge at wide receiver, talent-wise, but they're young. And so I think the things that you do like about Rex Ryan, he's familiar with the other teams in the division. Certainly is going to be able to help take on the identity of that Bills defense. But offensively, the issues do remain the same. He's got his work cut out. Chicago Bears now have John Fox as their new head offensive coach. Mark Trestman was there last year. For John Fox, I think it's a guy who he's just a guy who can't get the job done. If he wasn't able to get it done with all that talent in Denver, I'm not convinced. There's nothing that makes me feel that he's going to be able to do it in Chicago. I look at this Bears defense, and they need a complete makeover. Maybe that's where Fox comes in. He is supposed to be more of a defensive-minded guy. Yes, the talent is there for the Bears on offense, but John Fox has a huge task ahead getting his defense on track. They were absolutely horrible last year. 2014 seen Mike Pettine take over as the head coach for the Cleveland Browns. He was 7-9 in his first year, and I'll give the guy credit. Look, it was a circus there. You're figuring between Johnny Manziel, between what you had going on with Josh Gordon, between the Ben Tate situation not working out, between your starting tight end, Jordan Cameron, not being there the majority of the year. You lose your starting center, Alex Mack. I mean, there was a ton of obstacles and challenges for Mike Pettine to overcome. But 12 weeks into the season, his team was 7-5. And honestly, this is a team that if it weren't for a couple missed field goals by kicker David Akers, who, by the way, they parted ways with as well, this could have been a team at least at 9-7. I think things could have worked out a lot better. Looking at Pettine's future now, he's got a lot of question marks because Johnny Manziel has checked into rehab. He's going to be without Josh Gordon this year, who got suspended due to off-the-field issues. So Pettine's got his work cut out. He's got a good defense there, but offensively, they got to get it together. And Gary Kubiak is now going to be taking over as the new head coach for the Denver Broncos, taking the place of John Fox. Kubiak, he's got his work cut out as well. Now, look, I don't think there's any other coach in the NFL is going to come into a situation with more talent, but there's pressure. In Denver, it's all about winning a Super Bowl. This is presumably Peyton Manning's last year. They've got some key decisions they've got to make as far as re-signing some players, Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas. So Gary Kubiak coming into a situation with a ton of talent. His team's going to be predicted to win that division, go deep into the playoffs. But again, it's Super Bowl or failure for Denver. That's a heavy pressure situation to get in. But we know that Kubiak has ties to this Denver Broncos offense. I think the biggest thing we're going to be looking out for is Kubiak bringing that zone blocking scheme over there in the running game. Does Denver have the offensive lineman to be able to pull that off? And then how is that going to coexist with Peyton Manning in that passing game? So I think that's something that's going to be very interesting to look at. Detroit Lions, Jim Caldwell took over as their head coach in 2014. Great job by him. Had the Lions at 11-5, had a playoff berth this year. Unfortunately, they lost in the first round to the Dallas Cowboys. We know there was some controversy surrounding a penalty that was not called or a flag that was thrown and picked up in that game. I give Jim Caldwell a lot of credit. I just think, though, he's got to find a way to clean that team's actions up. Look, when you look at Detroit, you're looking at Caldwell wanting to come over there and clean up some of the mistakes that you're seeing Detroit making under Jim Schwartz. A lack of discipline, guys playing dirty, turnovers, penalties, self-inflicted wounds, and for the most part, Caldwell was able to do that. But then you had Detroit having to go through two kickers before getting to their guy. One game that they end up losing this year, and that was the one that cost them. They could have very well won that division and had a first round bye and had a playoff game if it not had been for a field goals missed against the Buffalo Bills, a home loss. So, they had issues with that. We've seen down the stretch run and Dominic Raiola stepping on guys' legs. And so, Caldwell, again, gets a ton of credit, but the Lions have to clean this thing up all the way through. You can't have those type things happening. And I think more than anything, I know it's management making those decisions, but they've got to do a better job of shoring up that offensive line. Detroit is a team that has not been able to run the football with consistency, and they've got to do a better job at protecting quarterback Matthew Stafford. Houston Texans, their first year coach, 2014, Bill O'Brien, let's give this guy a ton of credit. Went 9-7. You certainly think if it wasn't for the unsteady play at quarterback, this was a team that could have been in the wild card. I think for Bill O'Brien, has a ton of talent to build off of. He's going to be expecting Jadeveon Clowney back. This is a team without question that's got to get its quarterback situation figured out. I think outside of that, as long as Arian Foster can stay healthy, this is a team that's definitely playoff worthy. Minnesota Vikings, Mike Zimmer coming over from the Cincinnati Bengals. Great job in his first year. Yes, his team was 7-9, but you figured they played without arguably the best running back in the NFL, Adrian Peterson. You ended up with a rookie quarterback, a rookie running back, very young wide receivers, a very young defense. And so this was a team that was competitive for the most part, week in and week out. A few plays missed here and there. Had this team at 7-9, but when I look at the Minnesota Vikings and Mike Zimmer, I think this is a team now with their franchise quarterback and Teddy Bridgewater, and once they make the final decision on Adrian Peterson, this is a team that you want to look out for. Again, a wealth of young talent. I certainly like the prospects for Mike Zimmer and the Minnesota Vikings moving forward in the future. Todd Bowles is now the new head coach for the New York Jets, taking over for Rex Ryan. He's got his work cut out for him. You're talking about a team that at the skill position really doesn't have a lot of top-tier talent. Most importantly, they don't have a legitimate quarterback. We've seen it time and time again. Bowles seen it himself firsthand as he's seen the likes of Drew Stanton and Ryan Lindley have to fill in for Carson Palmer. If you don't have a legitimate quarterback, there's only so far you can go in this league. And so Bowles has the task of upgrading that defense, and particularly that secondary. That's an area he was able to do a great job with out in Arizona, but he's got to get that offense on track. I think he's got his work cut out for him. Oakland Raiders, their new coach this year is Jack Del Rio. He's taking over for Tony Sparano. I think this was a good pickup. Jack Del Rio certainly fits that Raider mold. Guy with a mean streak. I think he's got some nice pieces to work with. Certainly he's got his franchise quarterback. Del Rio's a guy that's going to come in and toughen up that defense even more. He's got some nice pieces there, but this is a team that's got to run the football more effectively and certainly bolster up their talent on the outside in the passing game. The San Francisco 49ers, their new head coach is Jim Tomsula. He was on the staff already. He's taking the place of Jim Harbaugh, who's now moved on to Michigan. I think for Tomsula, he's a guy who just really needs to get his entire team to buy in, kind of regroup the guys. And they've got some key decisions to make in San Francisco as far as what players they're going to keep, what players they're going to part ways with. If you look at the 49ers, the half of the high majority of their talent are guys who are maybe like in that 27 to 28 years old range and a little bit older. The other half young guys. So they got to find a way to balance out those paychecks and make sure that they can keep enough of those Pro Bowl established older players to make sure they have a winning product, and at the same time make sure that those young guys are continuing to make the necessary progressions in the offseason. Be real interested to see the identity that the 49ers take on this year. Are they going to get back to that running game, that focus that focus on the running game, or are they going to be a team that continues to pass the football, which really didn't work out too well for them this year? Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2014, their new head coach was Lovie Smith, took the place of Greg Schiano. 2-14 season, it was abysmal. This thing never really got going in the right way, rolling in the right way for Lovie Smith. He's got some pieces there. They've got the #1 overall pick. I think ultimately cashing in on a player with that #1 pick certainly is going to determine how far Smith goes there. Look, they've got a few pieces there. Some guys like Mike Evans, some guys like Gerald McCoy, Levante David, but they've got to pull this thing all together. I think they've got to just totally forget about last year and try to find a way to get back to some winning ways out in Tampa Bay. The same held true. Tennessee Titans, their first year coach was Ken Wisenhunt, took over for Mike Munchak, just unable to put it together. Quarterback carousel, poor defense, offensive line not able to run, and so again, a team now for Tennessee that they do have their franchise quarterback in Zach Mettenberger. Got to find a way to keep him healthy. Tough division there with Houston and Indianapolis, but I think this is a team that if they can put the right pieces in place, add on a few more wins each year, the next 3 to 4 years, this is a team that can possibly be back in playoff contention. And then last but not least, you had the Washington Redskins going out and getting Jay Gruden from Cincinnati. He was an assistant over there, taking the place of Mike Shanahan. 4-12 as a rookie, certainly didn't do a good job. He's very lucky to be back in Washington again, without question. They've got issues they've got to address on both sides of the football. You're figuring they've got an offense with an inconsistent and unconfident Robert Griffith III. He's got weapons at wide receiver who they can't seem to get the football to. Your tight end Jordan Reed, unable to stay healthy, didn't even score a touchdown last year. Are you going to utilize Alfred Morris the right way? And then you look defensively. Sure, their front seven was solid enough against the run, but their secondary is in shambles, and so I think it's a very short leash on Jay Gruden. If he's not able to up that win count by a couple this year, he could be gone very, very soon. That's going to round out our look back at your head coaches. Those were your new coaches for 2015. And we also took a quick look at the first year coaches in 2014. It's the NFL Exporter. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at NFL Exporter, Facebook.com/NFL Exporter. The spelling for both of those, NFLExporter.